The last thing we need is the Neanderthal thinking that in the meantime everything's fine, take off your mask, forget it.
Does that guy ever tire of being wrong? Neanderthal thinking, huh? Joe Biden was proven wrong yet again. Biden launched his critique at Texas Governor Greg Abbott when he lifted the mask mandates in the state of Texas. Biased press reporters and partisan Democrats all blasted that move, saying it was tantamount to a death sentence for Texans. Since early March, when the mandate was lifted, Texas reported 0 China virus deaths for the first time since the pandemic began. Governor Greg Abbott also noted his state had the fewest China virus cases in more than 13 months, the lowest 7-day China virus positivity rate ever, and the lowest number of China virus hospitalizations in 11 months. Joining me now to discuss, attorney and co-chair of Women for Trump, Madison Gesiotto Gilbert. Madison, welcome back to the Salcedo Show. You know, Biden and his party claim they follow the science, but it's all a lie. The only science they actually follow is political science, right? Fair?
Right, absolutely. It's incredible to see the Democrats, who continued to be the party that claimed they were following the science, fail to follow the actual science. The Republicans and Republican leaders across the country who, of course, dared to follow the real science and to question this Democratic administration were called horrible names like Neanderthal thinking on behalf of the president, talking about the governor of Texas and their decision to unmask 10 weeks ago. But we see those incredible numbers that you're talking about now, where Texas, other states like Texas that opened early, Florida, of course, remaining lower in that death count per 100,000 people than states like Michigan with Governor Whitmer, who had draconian measures in place for COVID-19, and states like New York. I think what we're seeing here is proof and evidence that the Republican Party right now is truly the superior political party, the party that has practical solutions. I've always looked at the Republican Party most of the time as the party of eternal optimism, the party of problem solvers, and we're seeing these problem solvers coming out right now as leaders at the end of this pandemic, putting an end to the nonsense, which honestly I think should have been put an end to much earlier than now. But we do see progress being made in these states, and I hope that liberal states will follow after, criticizing Texas, but seeing Texas was in fact right in their decision.
Yeah, I think your analysis of the Republican Party is good so long as they adhere to conservative principles. The minute Republicans deviate from those conservative principles, they make less and less sense. Speaking of less and less sense, Joe Biden's policies have sponsored massive inflation, a hidden tax on every American. Anyone who's been shopping lately knows costs are just going through the roof. Housing starts dramatically dropped in April. So-called economists projected only a 2% drop because we believe in Biden. We believe in socialism. Well, Biden delivered a whopping 10% drop in housing starts. Democrats really do suck when it comes to the economy, don't they?
Oh, it's been terrible. And I'll be honest, I've been personally affected by this. My husband and I were preparing to build our home together and had to put a stop on our plans as a result of the exorbitant lumber prices and the rises in steel and other raw materials that we needed. We're business owners here in the state of Ohio. We own a golf course. We're in the middle of renovations on our clubhouse, and we're suffering from price increases from many of our workers, unfortunately not under the control of them, but under the control of the fact that COVID-19 the pandemic last year, with the restrictions put in place, caused this lumber shortage, and so the prices are skyrocketing. It's scary because I think we're going to see a housing market crash as a result of what's going on, despite, of course, now the housing market continuing to be very hot across the country.
Yeah, because of what you mentioned with the China virus, and also because the money is worth less today than it was a year ago because of all the money printing that's been going on. 400% increase in the cost of lumber here in the United States. It's amazing. I want to move over to the cancerous cancel culture if I can. Tom McClintock, congressman from California, he wrote a piece sharing how most Americans are growing tired of the left's lies that the United States is a racist country. Yet liberals are cramming this falsehood into every aspect of our lives. Now, do you think that this effort to rob us of our constitutional protections and calling Americans racist all the time has a potential to backfire on these socialists?
Well, I think it's obscene, and I think it's very disappointing to see not only that they're continuing to say this, but that they're trying to push it in schools. They're trying to teach this to our children, and they're trying to really change the culture of the United States of America. We're a melting pot of cultures. We're a melting pot of people, and I'm proud to be an American. I know my husband's proud to be an American. So many of us come from all different backgrounds, are proud to be Americans, and that's what we should be teaching. That's what we should be pushing. We're lucky here, as women in the United States, to have rights that many people in other countries could only dream of having, that they're continuing to fight for to this day in countries like Saudi Arabia, where a few years ago women couldn't even drive, in places where they can't even go travel without permission of a male in the family. So it's insane to see that the socialists want to change our nation and want to make us out to be something that we're not, when in fact we are the greatest country in the world. Of course, there'll always be work to be done, there'll always be progress to be made, but we remain, I think, superior to these other nations, and I'm very proud to be an American.
Now, me too. There's news out of New York City that the NYPD will no longer be allowed at the city's annual Pride Parade for the next 5 years. I'm not sure what the whole timetable is about. Listen to what one gay woman and fellow NYPD officer had to say.
I think the most offensive and shameful part for me and for us as members of the Gay Officers Action League is to be discriminated by our own community. And because of the profession we chose to do. We chose this profession, at least I chose this profession, is to be able to make true changes within law enforcement. And that's something that GOAL truly strives for, and that's something that we will continue to do regardless of everything else that's going on.
Madison, isn't that very powerful to have somebody come out and say that she is being discriminated against by her own community? I mean, I saw that and my jaw dropped. That's exactly what the Pride Parade is doing. They are discriminating after, and that's what the whole Pride Parade was supposed to be about, non-discrimination. What's your take?
Yeah, it's horrible. It's heartbreaking. And I have many friends that are part of the LGBT community who unfortunately have been discriminated against in their lifetimes. And so they know what this feels like. And now to turn around and do this to another group of people because of their profession or the color of their skin or anything that makes them different, I think is unacceptable. And of course, I think you have to remember that the police officers will continue to protect the people who engage in peaceful protest or engage in attending this Pride Parade. And so it's sad to see that they're excluding the people who are there to keep them safe. And of course, who are in fact some of them members of that LGBT community who have the same goals in mind when attending this.
Yeah, and they're all, let's just say it, they're hypocrites for doing this. Madison Gesiotto Gilbert, always appreciate the time here on the Salcedo Show.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, we're real news for real people.